The craziest Gen Z recession holiday dating trend is having sex with Santa Claus. Gen Z girls say, Santa, surprise me this year, but make it Hermes. The year before the pandemic, there were almost no searches for sprinkle sprinkle and the hashtag sugar dating. But they surged to almost 20 million right after that year. And now it's for the tag sugar dating, it's 250 million views on and searches on TikTok. What happened, Ramasani? How do you do? Audrey Hepburn may have said that elegance is timeless, but Gen Z girls say my rent is due on the 1st. Gen Z girls say I don't chase, I attract yachts. Some young ladies say luxury is when your student loans are solved by your sugar daddy and your problems are solved by his credit card. These days, sugar dating has become so normalized that many Gen Z ladies see it as the common sense solution for the cost of living crisis since COVID, the ever-rising inflation, insanely high student loans in the United States. Even in Canada, they have increased, right? If you remember, I mean, we don't, right? But in my parents' generation, so that says my age, I'm millennial, when they were younger, right? When they were students in the United States, a boomer could work over the summer and that would pay for the university over the year, and they could work part-time and therefore study, and they'll have nothing left. They'll have no loan when they graduate. They could actually pay off their studies. And that is no more. Today, the workplace is just insane and anti-female with ridiculous hours, and women work more hours, so it becomes impossible to work full-time and have a child. And so if you want to stay at home, imagine you have a secretary job, right, or work at McDonald's, and you have $100,000 or $200,000 student loan for a marketing executive or whatever, job that no longer exists, or archaeologist. So many of my friends had rather fascinating university degrees, right? And then they end up with a job that didn't require a university degree in the first place, and they have a humongous student loan. So, right? And then, how do you, even retire and become a housewife? So your future husband would have to pay the student loan. So, and then at the same time, there is college hookup culture and boys faking relationships to get laid, and then they call you a 304, a floozy for, giving free kitty, right? And they laugh behind your back. This is not, the hippies, free love, everyone is thinking it's fun. It's not if, you think you're in a romantic relationship and this boy slanders your reputation, says, oh, she's a floozy, we split a beer, she was so easy. And you're thinking this is romantic connection, and you're just being slandered for being easy, for Victorian patriarchal norms, and you were not aware that you were playing that game. You were told that you were a modern woman, it's the 21st century, and then lo and behold, you date someone, and then you hear all the stories behind your back, how you don't measure up to the Victorian ideal of a woman. And last time, You didn't realize salute or salute or ho 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 was a modern term. You thought that that died in the age of the dinosaurs and was some fossil in a museum. And are shocked it applied to you because you split the bill with some romantic boy friend situationship. What's the craziest Gen Z holiday dating trend? Sex with Santa Claus. Ho ho ho, happy holidays. Gen Z ladies say, Santa, surprise me this year, but make it Hermes. Since the pandemic, sugar dating searches on TikTok shot up from almost 0 to 250 million this year. And they started to explode during the pandemic. Same with the trends sprinkle sprinkle. And Shira's and honor-based content that was there before the pandemic, but exploded after the recession, following COVID and the high inflation. Maria Lasani, how do you do? The problem with the normalization of sugar dating as a common sense solution from the point of view of Gen Z for their financial problems and inflation has unfortunate side effects because not enough is talked about health and safety issues regarding this type of dating and the social implications. While it's normalized for Gen Z young ladies, it is still stigmatized by the rest of Western society, which is hypocritical because hookup culture is normalized. But the moment a lady decides to charge for her kitty cat, there is a misogynist reaction to it. How dare she? You know, it's all right that gentlemen fake relationships to get laid, but it's not all right if the lady gets something out of it. It has become so hypocritical. Sugar dating is also seen as the latest iteration of feminism or women's empowerment. And so how did we get here? Because of social media, there was such a thing as pickup artists and red pill. So boys weaponized the internet and connected, and they started to weaponize relationships and fake relationships to get laid, and started using girlfriends as free escorts. Therefore, today, if a girl says that she has a boyfriend, she's looked down on as an idiot, right? We saw the new Vogue article that boyfriends are embarrassing. Also, the music industry leveled down propaganda, etc., normalized hookup culture. And then it's no fun for the ladies because pornography or porn industry, well, this industry is completely fake, and ladies in that industry use painkillers. It's completely staged, and the way that industry makes a profit is for extreme content that is no fun for the lady involved. And then you have these whales who'll pay for this extra content, so the content becomes more and more extreme. The target audience, of course, is older gentlemen who pay for this, right? But teenage boys find a way to access it, and they think this is how you have physical relations, and they see it as a teaching manual. It's absolutely not. So they want to try this, they want to try that, and it's no fun. Relationships stop being fun for girls, right? So the girl thinks, oh, relationship dating, it's like in the movies. So she goes out with a boy in high school, right? And then they hold hands, they go out, you know, they get ice cream, and then he invites her to his place. Well, it's normal for boyfriend, girlfriend, there's so much social pressure. And okay, we're boyfriend-girlfriend. The first, second date, she's in his bedroom, and he tries all the positions in porn that are absolutely lethal. And then he talks to the whole school behind her back how she's easy. And she thinks, what a horrible experience. I have been completely lied to about love. So she goes on TikTok and sees, is there anyone who has been through the same thing? And then she finds Shira and Sprinkle Sprinkle. Then starts to make sense to her. Oh, I treat things that I pay for better. I was treated terribly because she thought she did it for free. How did we get here? The clubs in Toronto and the false promise of the sexual revolution. And the hypersexualization of media. That defines masculinity in the West by the gentleman's ability to get free kitty cat. Instead of provide, protect, commit. Oh, well, that is oppressive and old-fashioned. No, gentlemen using ladies as free escorts. That's the new definition of masculinity, because that is true feminism, right? That's what ladies were manipulated into. And with the recession, Gen Z ladies were asking, what's in it for them, as they're getting the short end of this stick? And they saw modern dating as the scam that it is, and the sexual revolution as the misogynist scam that it is. 20 years ago, in the clubs, Mystery and other pickup artists came up with a system, and then it propagated through the internet, through social media. And around the world, the red pill was born, and boys started to weaponize relationships and fake relationships to get laid, and industrialize hookup culture with things like necks. So what was the original red pill? The red pill was about there's a discrepancy between how we say things are, especially in the media, versus how things actually work in the real world. The difference between the written and unwritten rules. It may have started very innocent, but quickly developed into something sinister, as boys competed who was more alpha, who was, a dusty race to the bottom of who was more aggressive, and who would validate the victim mindset of broke dusty losers, because that is most of the market. So boys discovered with this love propaganda how they say things are not how they really are. So when ladies are looking for romance, ladies have a lust for dust, and they pick the most horrible person when ladies date for love. The broke, dusty loser is the most sexually exciting to the average female, so therefore it's called the alpha. And then the high-value gentleman was called beta bucks, because if you are dating for love, you don't care about provision, you want chemistry. And there is nothing like a broke, dusty, nasty, mean loser that creates chemistry. No one triggers emotion like a jerk, and what initially starts as hate easily can be converted into lust and love. For most of history, women were not stupid to date for love. It was for gentlemen to chase ladies, but ladies dated with their brain. But then with the pill, it liberated ladies to date with following their kitty cat, and their cat led them astray. Meow. Young gentlemen highly resented ladies after this, that the gentleman who works hard, who's a gentleman, who takes a lady on a beautiful date and puts all the effort, he's friend-zoned, and he waits and waits and waits for a chance, and then this broke dusty loser is just mean to her, and she gives it to him that night. Prior to the red pill and social media, Western gentlemen did not judge ladies for sleeping around. But after this, with this alpha F's beta bucks situation, where ladies would extract resources and not put out to the high-value gentleman, and then give it to the broke dusty loser because he would give her feelings, gentlemen highly resented the Taylor Swift romantic lover girl types, who then only when they're older, after they screwed all the alphas, then, oh, they're 34 and then they settle down with a nice guy like Travis Kelce. So if you were a hippie hooking up in the 70s, you're simply a modern lady. You were not judged. If you're a girlfriend, if you did it with your boyfriend for free and split the bill, in the 90s, no one judged you for sleeping with your boyfriend for free. And in the 80s and 90s, there was social pressure, because it was still Christianity, there was social pressure for gentlemen to marry their girlfriend. So in the 90s or the 80s, if you had a boyfriend, within half a year to a year, he would propose. And on a date, it was normal for ladies to say they're looking for marriage. You should, right? There was a social stigma against it. But now, there is no stigma for boys to waste years of a lady's time as a placeholder so that they have a free escort, free chef, free maid, half the bills paid, free laundress, etc. You know, a parking spot. While they look for their dream girl, they have all these free services. In some places, even gays will have a woman to have all these free services while they, have fun with the boys at the back. And that's actually the DL, down low. Gentleman has become a problem because even some gentlemen in the gay community think, oh, well, I get a free maid, free chef, half the bills, free everything, right? I mean, another gay gentleman is not going to cook and clean for free, is he? So there's some even gay gentlemen who's starting to also take advantage, right? Of course, most gays are gay, but there is a down low, unfortunate trend. So today, ladies think if they're pressured to sleep with a gentleman, or they're not normal, right? Oh, you have a boyfriend, you should sleep with him, right? What's wrong with you? Oh, you must be one of those weird MAGA Christian psychos. I don't think they're psycho, but the girls are pressured, it's stigmatized, and the boys, of course, take advantage and further the pressure. Oh, what's wrong with you? Why are you so weird? Why won't you sleep with your boyfriend? You don't like me? Are you a lesbian? So they will pressure the girls, especially the young boys. Gentlemen don't think of a serious relationship and they don't like you until they can provide and take care of you, right? So there is no reason young girls should be dating until they have started to work, right? After a year of working, you have things in common with a provider for him to have an emotional and a spiritual, intellectual connection with you. And that's who he marries. Gentlemen want their dream girl to be a life companion of someone he can talk to about his problems at work. And that wouldn't be some student. Sorry, ladies, right? If you're a student, a businessman, a provider, a doctor, a lawyer, will think that, oh, she will not understand a single thing I'm saying, and will feel lonely in the marriage, right? So they won't marry someone who would make them feel lonely. They would have fun with you, but then they'll go for someone who can listen to him and make him feel validated. That's a lady with a job. That's a lady who graduated university and has a year of work experience minimum. Because how things are said to be in theory in the world are not how they are in reality, and often the opposite. Rarely ever the same, although it happens sometimes. To have a quality gentleman, you need life experience. So the media and culture pressure young Western ladies to have physical relations with young men who are not financially capable of providing. They only want to have fun as a result. That's just the biological programming. So they're premature. Then they have those relations, and unlike in the past where he'd be obligated to be your boyfriend and, marry you after you graduate university, here, thanks to Red Pill, they laugh at you, ha ha ha, ho ho ho. Happy, or rather unhappy holidays. The problem was that the cultural expectations for Western ladies were so contradictory, and they just could not win. All of a sudden, because of Red Pill and social media, they were Victorian social expectations of ladies. Suddenly you would be judged for your purity, and at first called a thought, and now a 304. Thought means that hoe over there. Charming. Being low body count was seen as a prize in the high school cafeteria. And there were contradicting messages from the media that if you were not hooking up, you were undesirable as a lady and there was something wrong with you. So there was this pressure to be a hookup virgin, which is self-contradictory and drove ladies mad. And ladies were programmed to fall in love and look for love, while boys were together using social media to fake relationships to get laid, then laugh behind the girl's back by how easy and cheap she was, and they would compete who's the cheapest and easiest and how many notches the boy got in the belt and so on. In the 90s, a boy would take a girl out in high school for ice cream, pizza, maybe school dance, right? And then they would be boyfriend, girlfriend, they would be an item. And after that, because they're boyfriend, girlfriend, he would sleep with her. And they would not be a stigma because they're a couple, they're committed. And he would be expected to be boyfriend, girlfriend up through university. And then once they graduate and they find jobs, they would get married, known as high school sweethearts. Sometimes they may break up in university, and then many gentlemen would actually marry their university sweetheart. Many people went to university to find a spouse in the 90s. It's not like this at all today. 20 years ago, I had one of the first Facebook accounts, right? And there was this MSN Messenger. I'm old, millennial. So there was this MSN Messenger. There was all these messengers and social media coming up. And people were sharing. There was this Pirate Bay, and they were sharing PDF files, not the Epstein Island kind, but PDFs of this books about Red Pill, how to be a pickup artist, pick up girls, etc., what lines you need to use, etc. Then they started to have forums on how to weaponize relationships, fake relationships to get laid, and have a whole harem. With gay marriage, the societies in the world became more secular, so there was no social pressure for anyone to marry their girlfriend anymore. Moving in became destigmatized, and there was pressure to accept this. So the lady would be a free escort, free chef, free maid, half the bills paid, free laundress, and so on. Free therapist, and the list does go on. So young millennial girls would have a boyfriend, right, like their mother would, move in, because it's destigmatized, and he wouldn't commit, and it's a shock, because, you know, in their parents' generation, people got married. Now, Gen Z girls have observed this. They would waste the prime fertile years, 5 years, no ring, and then they would dump this lady. That happened to my friends. 4, 5, 6 years, and then 8, then 12, and then they would dump her for their dream girl because she was a placeholder, what they would call a parking spot. In the younger generation, girls would listen to Taylor Swift, fall in love, and think this boy is so cute. He's my next big mistake. Woohoo. I make bad boys. Good for a weekend. She should be called Taylor Not So Swift. Western ladies started to get penalized for following the culture. You were supposed to find emotional and social validation through a boyfriend. And you were supposed to sleep with him, otherwise there's something wrong with you. But if you sleep with him, then he'll go to everyone and say how cheap and easy you are, how you are a floozy hoe. In the millennial term, it was called thought, that hoe over there. Charming. Or, today it's called a 304. If you have your alarm say 304, flip it over, and ho ho ho, happy holidays. Delightful. So, you're supposed to have a boyfriend to find love, right? And you're supposed to sleep with him, and in exchange for sleeping with him, you'll get love, right? That's the culture. And instead, the girls have physical relations with the boyfriend. They're doing everything right. They're a good girl. They have a nice boyfriend, right? They have a commitment talk with exclusive boyfriend-girlfriend, yes. And then they only sleep after being exclusive, maybe after eating some ice cream, and then going to a pizza place or just having ice cream, going over to his place. Now we're boyfriend-girlfriend, right? We had some ice cream. They go over, say, okay, now we're boyfriend-girlfriend. He says you should sleep with him, so you do. And then he was like, oh, I split the ice cream, or I split the pizza. So for one slice of pizza, I got kitty cat. And then boys would compete on that basis. Well, says, well, I used this snag. I told that girl that, if she loses a couple pounds, she'd be so pretty. And she gave it for free. Then boys compete with each other with put-downs to see who would put out, who would get the most free kitty. It's a numbers game. How many notches under the belt? And then all of a sudden, the ladies would get a bad reputation for following the culture. So the ladies think, why should I follow the culture when I'm being laughed at for being a good girl? I'll go on TikTok and be a baddie. Since the cultural expectations don't work for Gen Z girls, they decided to rebel. So when the pandemic hit, ladies had a lot of time to reflect and also watch social media, YouTube. So everyone was at home watching YouTube and TikTok. That's when Gen Z girls saw Anna Bay and Shira 7. they started to think 50-50 is unfair if gentlemen expect women to also cook, clean, etc. And they saw how their older sister, boys would have this weaponized incompetence, so when she would move in, well, in the beginning, everything would be split, but soon he was too tired to do this, too tired to do that. He'd appreciate when she would cook and so on. And so she ends up having the female role of her grandmama in the 1950s, but split the bill, and there was no commitment. And ladies around the world would come together and talk for the first time, and we all realized we have been scammed by the mainstream culture. Those of us who are more traditional, like myself, coming from an Arab Muslim background, so where people used to laugh at me for waiting until marriage because they watched mainstream media level down propaganda. The propaganda fell apart, and they realized, oh, I'm not oppressed. I'm living my best life. And the people who follow the media end up being miserable. The media is lying. While I teach hypergamy, other ladies follow sugar dating, and as an image consultant, I don't judge the path that you take, but ladies, don't give it for free, because now, thanks to Red Pill, the internet, and so on, boys around the world will laugh at you for giving free kitty. Value your labor. If your unpaid labor doesn't have a monetary value, it has a value of 0. Then young ladies view sugar dating as Christmas magic, but with better, more sparkly gifts. While elves prepare toys for Christmas, Sugar Santa is preparing a surprise at Hermes. Santa's workshop becomes the airport duty-free designer gift shop. Sugar babes say Santa might check the list twice, but I check his LinkedIn 4 times. Sugar babes say, while your kid's Santa climbs chimneys, my Santas climb tax brackets. So these days, with Shira 7, Sprinkle Sprinkle has become the most popular hashtag for sugar babies. So when Santa climbed down naughty Natalia's chimney, he said, "Ho, ho, ho, what a short skirt." Natalia said, "Sprinkle, sprinkle, sprinkle. What a nice Birkin box." Sprinkle, sprinkle, sprinkle. What a nice Birkin, and how it will twinkle. Sugar babes say, when I was a child, Santa's sleigh ran on reindeer. Now it runs on Santa's black credit card and Amex points. The problem with sugar dating is Santa's naughty list are often things you don't sign up for. Sugar dating might sound normal and prestigious to Gen Z young ladies. However, there is a massive downside, and more than one, that is not talked about. And health and safety issues are Gen Z ladies will see on Instagram, TikTok, on eBay videos, etc., how normalized this lifestyle is, but the negative side and the dangers are swept under the carpet. It's not Aladdin's magic carpet ride. The fact is, it is seen by some as grey zone prostitution. On the other hand, red pill and hookup culture has made everything saxophone work. When boys fake relationships to get laid, why not get paid? But by normalizing and glamorizing it, by normalizing and glamorizing sugar dating, we don't talk about the dangers of an inexperienced university student who lacks life experience, sleeping with someone her father's age who's much more accomplished than her father, and many of those gentlemen are predatory. The girls will try to get an allowance, and many of sugar daddies, they will call them salt daddies, will try to nickel and dime you. Others are corrupt officials who get money illegally, and then there's a corruption investigation, and you have to give your entire Christmas list back to the authorities, as what happened to Miranda Kerr, because there was a corruption investigation. And you did all the disgusting stuff for nothing. Many will push for intimacy on the first date. Many will give fake payments. So you have to know what you're doing. Also, if you are alone in a hotel with a stranger, you can get stabbed, you can get physically assaulted, right? There is a reason why saxophone workers have BIMs, who at least try to assure some safety. So you do worry about your health and safety, and there are risks associated with this. Then we do have to talk about the social risks. Erica Kirk got married, so I'm not knocking sugar dating, so did Anna May. You can get married, however, it's so important to be discreet and hide it. Gentlemen do view it as saxophone work, so if you're known as a sugar baby, it will be difficult for you to marry. I think it's wrong, misogynist and bizarre for a girl who had the same sugar daddy through university to be looked down on, but a girl who's the town bicycle the whole football team rode on in university and slept with everyone, partied at university, that's socially acceptable, right? And it was just university. But the low body count, if we're talking about body counts, the low body count sugar babe is far more stigmatized than the pygmisha who has a different boyfriend every month because she doesn't understand that boys fake relationships to get laid. However, Stoicism teaches us to accept the world as it is and not as we wish it to be, and work with the existing reality. So when I went to university, it was not common. It was something regular girls did not do, but you would hear about it from my uncle. I had an uncle who got divorced. He was on the rebound, and at the same time he didn't want a girlfriend because they see his home, and then all of a sudden there'll be all sorts of drama for them trying to get him to marry them. So he thought, you get what you pay for. You pay for this time. She knows those are the expectations, it's only money, and she won't feel used, right? Because it's a rebound, and you pay to get ladies to leave. One of my friends, let's call her Emily. Emily and I have a mutual friend called Jacques, who is a divorced businessman. So Jacques, a local businessman, the mutual friend of Emily and I, was friends with Emily's friend, Rachel, an acquaintance. Rachel is a prominent local Ottawa businesswoman. Or famous politician, I won't name names. Rachel's teenage daughter had just finished high school. became 18 and started to go to university. And, horrified, Jacques told Emily that he saw Rachel's daughter. Like my uncle shortly after divorce, guess what Jacques was doing? He was on sugardaddydating.com seeking arrangement with one of those sugar sites. And there was Rachel's daughter, who just turned 18, in the skimpiest lingerie possible, where you could see everything. And I do mean everything. With the lace and net that left nothing to the imagination. And her rates and her favorite holiday destinations to fly to. Jacques was not close with Rachel, and he didn't want everyone to know what he was doing right after he got separated. He didn't want people telling his children at the cafeteria, "I know your daddy's doing so and so." So Jacques asked Emily how could she tell and relay this information to Rachel. And then Emily asked me when he was gone, how do I tell Rachel, right? I will not say what we did to get the situation under control, because I didn't want to give identifying information. But it was such an embarrassment to Rachel. Thankfully, we got the situation under hand before more people knew. And then it would drag down the reputation of Rachel's entire family, her philanthropic efforts, her contributions, right? And I'm not saying, was this a senator or a congresswoman or a politician or a businesswoman? I'm not saying, but it could have been a great scandal. As an image consultant, I don't judge. Some of my clients have been sugar babes, though far more intelligent ones, who don't post their face and post their hair from the back and their figure and everything, but don't show their face. I absolutely don't recommend doing this with people in the same town you're in, because the elite are a small group and word spreads fast. It's not the same as boyfriend, girlfriend dating of somebody your age. Yes, I know there are problems with that. But a boy your age is as smart as you and manipulative as you, not someone who has your age of life experience of manipulating young ladies. Too many ladies these days care more for the safety of their own cell phone instead of the safety of their own physical body. Ladies do get unalived on dates, raped on dates, and so on. Safety first, ladies. And it's not all that glamorous. A sugar baby earns as much as an office worker, and often slightly less, except she has, yes, expensive handbags, private jets, and those vacations are work. It's not fun. The vacations a secretary has with her job, by herself or with her girlfriends, is far more fun than a working trip for a sugar baby. A cheap vacation with your besties, where you're having fun off the clock, will be better than a working trip in the most expensive resort. And when you get used to it, it gets old fast, and very quickly you'll notice the gentleman with you's old. If you want financial security, hypergamy is a much better choice, and it's a different form of dating, and the tactics don't translate from one to the other. That's one of the problems. Ladies will listen to sugar dating tactics and try this in a regular relationship, and it backfires. Dating the wealthy and sugar dating are opposite things, and what works well in one type of dating will backfire in the other, and the opposite is also true. I won't judge anyone, at the same time, I am concerned that more risky behaviors are increasingly more normalized, and that includes how the whole transgender thing is being pushed on tomboy, autistic girls and gay boys, and that's a life-altering choice. There are too many risky behaviors that are just being normalized as part of modern society, and then the society and media lie about all the risks. So, for example, when I was a tomboy, yes, the idea of transgender occurred to me. So I went to my therapist, and she told me that you will be a lifelong medical patient, you will be a tiny male with a tiny thing, that's a fate worse than death, right? And then on top of it, your life expectancy will be cut off by 1/3 because the hormones will induce cancer, and you will die a painful death of cancer and have 2/3 of your life expectancy in most cases. And then they have a high self-unaliving rate as well. So back then, before all the woke stuff, my therapist went and gave me the pros and cons and the real thing, and I was like, oh, that's a poor choice, the risks are too high. She sat down and told me all the risks. And now, again, sugar dating is glamorized, but people aren't sitting down with young people saying, okay, here are the risks, here are the safety precautions, here are the health precautions you need to take. So I urge young women, whatever type of dating or talking to males of any sort you do, please look at health and safety. And there are even a lot of problems with vanilla dating being unsafe. If you want me to talk more about health and safety in vanilla relationships, let me know. Otherwise, would you like my view on Emily in Paris for the next video? The fashion or a relationship critique? Which one would you rather have of Emily in Paris? Please like or absolutely hate, share and subscribe. Ciao!